to the Friends of Israel's Jew and Gentile podcast. I am your host, Chris Katulka, and with me is none other than the Jewish sage himself, the one, the only, Mr. Steve Herzig. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Chris, but I'm undergoing a culture clash.
What is that? What do you mean?
Culture clash.
Okay.
That is my culture, being from a Jewish background, coming into a clash with a modern day take today on what is brand new in the dating scene.
Oh, man.
Chris, I'm 48 years married. I haven't been on a date without my wife in over 48 years. But I can tell you that today, in USA Today, I found out about hot take dating.
All right, now wait, before we get to hot take dating, because this is huge, because I don't think it's just a culture clash for you. I've been married for 17 years, and I'm going to tell you something. The dating scene, I'm glad I'm not in it. I'm glad I'm not in it.
Hot take dating.
All right, but before we get to that, be sure, if you've never gotten stickers from us before that support Israel and the Jewish people, we want to give you an opportunity to do that.
Take them on a date with you.
That's right. Start handing them out on your dates.
That's right.
That's right.
It'll be a hot take on Israel.
That's right. So if you love Israel and you want your date to know, we want to give you 50 free stickers that support Israel and the Jewish people, and you can do that by texting us at 424-1948. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on Apple, Steve. Apple.
We've had a few issues with Apple.
Well, we had one issue. We had one issue. We've created 200, and this is our 232nd show of the Jew and Gentile podcast. And they've messed up once, okay?
So that's not bad.
Zygazun, they haven't aired, which one was it? Not
2 weeks ago. It wasn't last week. It was the week, right? The first one of the new year.
And we're still trying to see if we can get it up. And we've had some faithful listeners text us and say, where have you been? What's going on? Especially the first one of the year. You know, are you abandoning us?
Yep.
You know, no, we're not abandoning you.
It's not our fault. It didn't go up.
That's right.
We did it, but it didn't go up.
That's right. And not because of anything we said. I mean, they could block us all day long for the things that we say.
Is it because of hot take dating?
It could be. But before we get to our hot take dating, I just want to let you know that you can get 50 free stickers by texting us at 424-1948. And we want you to bring those stickers on your dates because that's what this hot take dating is all about. What is it,
Chris,
Steve?
This caught my eye because I can't even relate to this. I can't even, I remember going with Alice. When I met Alice, I told her everything about me, like whether she wanted to know it or not. I told her. But hot take dating, Chris, is typically, according to the article in USA Today, they said that on first dates, it's normal, whatever normal is, but it's normal to avoid certain topics.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk religion. You don't want to talk politics. We're living at a time and age where people get very aggravated. So you're meeting this person for the first time. Hi, tell me a little bit about yourself. What do? You don't want to, according to this, you don't want to tell them, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, I'm Jewish, I'm Catholic, I'm what. You don't want to do that, not on the first date.
That's the consultation. That's if somebody were to give you some advice in dating, stay away from the sensitive issues.
Until this article was written, because now hot take dating is a new trend. It could go really right, it says, or really wrong.
Yeah, one line in this USA Today article says, and it's a doozy. And it's a doozy. So actually, it's telling you on your first date to lay it all out there.
Lay it all. Chris, nobody had to tell me, or most Jewish people, to tell people about what you think. What does this say that we did last week?
That's right. 2 viewpoints. Non-Jews, I'd like to get a second opinion. Jewish people, I'd like to give a second opinion.
That's right. We're in the business of telling you stuff, whether you like it or not, whether you want to hear it or not. So hot take dating, for me, is no new trend, but it really is. And Chris, they're talking about where they say, in Swipe 2025, 37% of singles say they find shared values essential for dating.
Oh, 100%.
Chris,
That's about
most Christians. Okay, I'm telling you from the Jewish perspective, when a Christian dates, maybe even before they go out, you're going to want to know, so what, are you a Christian?
Yeah.
In fact, they have Christian computer dating sites. You can put yourself out for, what do they call that?
Like the online dating?
Yeah, online dating. Well, you want to know before you waste your time are you a Christian? Have you trusted Christ? It might be that it becomes more defined on your first date, but this thing to me is such a riot. That means people, when they meet each other, aren't, according to this, until recently, they're not telling you anything. Is it okay to tell you I like chicken or I like steak? What do you talk about if you can't talk about your religion, your culture, your background, what you like, what you don't like? My people have been doing that forever.
But that's actually, I mean, it does raise a great question, because normally you find your spouse in a place, you met Alice at the internship for the Friends of Israel. There's probably a lot you have in common at that point. I mean, for the most part, you know what I mean? Like the things that are foundational, your relationship with the Lord Jesus, your mission, this was a Jewish ministry. You're both here in an internship, which means you both have an interest in it. If you're coming in from the internet, it's the Wild West out there. So, when you sit down, it's, let's just get it all out of the way up front.
I agree. But even way before the internet, when I met people and dating on college campus or in high school, we went to the same school. So obviously, what classes do you take? What do you want to be after you graduate? What job do you want? Those kinds of things. But I'm telling you, back then too. Did you go to synagogue? Didn't you go to synagogue? Do you keep kosher? Don't you? Do you date Gentiles? Look, when I was in high school, my parents forbid me to date shiksas.
Yep.
That's a shiksa is a female Gentile. A shagitz is a male Gentile. So my father said, you can't date Gentile girls. Well, when I was in college, I did. That's one of the first things I did. I'm away from home. It's what you do. And so I would talk about these things when I first met them. Yeah. I was doing hot takes before they were hot takes.
So you're saying hot takes are nothing new, buddy?
Nothing new to me, but I'm glad people have other things to do. If you're not going to agree on so many things, and Chris, you were just telling me about a number of people who you're good friends with, who there are certain topics politically that ignite them.
Oh, yeah.
That get them very upset. Well, you get it out of the way at first.
Well, this person, I don't know them that well, but I saw them on Facebook, and they're still in the online dating world. But I guess they've resolved to just say, if you're a Trump supporter, no bueno, we don't want you here. Well, what happens is a girl sees him and goes, I'm interested in this guy, and will say, hey, maybe you want to go out and get a cup of coffee, but she'll write on there, but I am a Trump supporter, and he goes, no, thank you, But she's doing a hot take before she can even get there. Hot take.
Well, let's just use that as an example. I would be, you don't agree with me politically. Let's talk. That would be a great thing to talk about.
I would.
Not to convert them, but just to hear. I would love to hear why are you against or why are you for whatever it is.
What was the end of the...
Oh, it's a great ending, Chris, where it says, where is it? Oh, yeah, here it is. And remember, she says, this is the woman being interviewed, it's a date. Not a debate. It's a date, not a debate. If you're going to share a hot take, do so with the intention of gauging compatibility rather than trying to change the other person's mind.
I've always been that way.
I agree.
I'm probably not going to change your mind, but I'll listen.
100%.
I love listening to it. Yes.
That'd be a great date. Talk about, you don't like this, I like this. It's great.
But it is an interesting world that we live in where, again, you're meeting people in the Wild West, so you have no idea what's going on out there, and you're meeting this person for the first time. But it's also kind of annoying that you would come to a place where, like, they have to tell you in a USA Today article, it's a date, not a debate. You don't have to change someone's mind. You can just listen. But anyway, that's the world of dating
Hot take dating. I just thought that was so interesting from my cultural background. That's not new news, but I'm glad people are laying cards out on the table right away.
All right, Steve. So we got that out of the way. Hot take dating.
That's right. Chris, we're taping on a Tuesday. Yesterday was Martin Luther King Day.
Yep.
A very special day. And I found it interesting to read this quote from Martin Luther King. Here's what he said. When people criticize Zionists, they mean Jews. You're talking anti-Semitism. Isn't that interesting? Way back in the 60s, and by the way, there were many Jewish clergy, rabbis, cantors who marched with Martin Luther King. There were Jewish people related to the idea of trying to keep a people down, persecuted people. It's biblical. And it was also, in Europe, Jewish people had problems. So in the United States, they identified with the African-American community and wanted to stand side by side with them. And Martin Luther King talked about anti-Semitism. And even back then, many anti-Semites were also anti-Zionists.
You know, I'm actually looking through this article too, Stephen. Here is Martin Luther King. If you go to our show notes, you'll be able to click on the link from the Jerusalem Post.
You might have to scroll down.
You got to scroll down.
That's right.
You'll see it down there.
Yeah,
I promise.
That's right. It took me a while. I learned that last year or the year before. I can't remember.
Like I said, we're in episode 232, I believe. It took Steve till about episode 117 to realize.
That's probably true.
But here's Martin Luther King with Professor Abraham Joshua Heschel, very famous.
He was
Jewish philosopher.
Time. Yep.
Very famous Jewish philosopher. But again, it's interesting, Steve, that the conversation is the same yesterday as it is today when Martin Luther King is saying, if you hate Israel, if you don't believe Israel should exist, then you technically hate Jews. Why? Because it's the Jewish homeland, period. So, we're having this debate here in the 21st century, decades after Martin Luther King, and we're still having the same conversation. And I think for it's the same concept. For him, it was the liberation of the African-American community, the black community, and he would tie himself to Moses a lot. He saw himself as going through the Red Sea and coming out into the promised land.
I have a dream. He said, I've been to the promised land.
That's exactly right. So you get this, I'm sure there was a sense of connection with the Jewish people. And as you said, the Jewish people were very pro civil rights
100%,
during that time.
100%. Well, as we look back at Martin Luther King Day, we're looking forward to Holocaust Remembrance Day, Chris. That'll be January 27th is Holocaust Remembrance Day. And, Chris, the reason I wanted to bring this up is as we think of Holocaust Remembrance Day, I always get mixed up between this day, which is January 27th, and Yom HaShoah, which is a Holocaust Remembrance Day in Israel. Mm-hmm. And there's a difference. One takes place in January, and that's coming up. And most countries are going to not celebrate it, remember it in a number of ways. The Holocaust, there's people who deny it ever happened. We still have a few survivors. After the end of World War II and the revealing of the just tremendous agony and tragedy of what the Holocaust is, countries want to remember, and we don't want it to happen again. But there's another day in Israel, Chris, and I have not been there on Yom HaShoah Day. Describe it. I've seen videos of it. There's one video that I saw, Chris. I didn't send it to you, but all they did with no sound, you see these cars, they're driving, and then they stop, mm-hmm. and you hear they stop because they hear a siren, and they're on an expressway, a freeway. And they all stop their cars. You hear this sirens, and the doors open.
Oh, yeah.
And now they're standing outside on the freeway while these sirens sound. Tell me a little bit about that.
It's just the whole country stops. That's what they use, the national alert system that they have there. And all the sirens all throughout the country go off, and people driving, whether it's busy Tel Aviv or small town up in the Galilee, they all stop, no matter what they're doing, whether they're driving, whether they're shopping in a grocery store, whatever it is, everybody stops and they pause for the duration of the siren. to pay homage and to pay respect to those who perished in the Holocaust. And I think it's actually very fitting that this article that you chose, Steve, about the crossroads of the Holocaust remembrance, and this particular article is a conversation with Dr. Yael Rickler Friedman, who works for Yad Vashem. You know, during it, they are having a conversation with the president of Israel, Isaac Herzog, about the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, the IHRA, which actually is the one that developed the best definition of anti-Semitism that many states, local cities, counties, I think even the federal government has picked up as a definition to give definition to anti-Semitism. And recently in New York City, the mayor of New York, Zohran Mamdani, said this is not going to be the definition of anti-Semitism. And he actually got rid of the IHRA, which is the pretty widely accepted around the world definition of anti-Semitism. He completely scrapped it from the books because I believe it was an executive.
It was from the previous mayor.
Right, from Eric Adams. And so anyway, very interesting and very important for us to be remembering the Holocaust, the International Holocaust Remembrance that's going to be happening globally.
So we want to be able to help our 7 listeners differentiate these two dates. The first one that we're talking about that's on the 27th of January is International Holocaust Remembrance Day. And then on the 27th of Nisan, which is actually this year, be April 14th, that's when Israelis particularly, it's quiet.
Yom HaShoah, yeah.
Yom HaShoah, it's silence in the country for like 3 minutes, something like that. And that's important because in the day and age in which we live, where there's rampant anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, the idea of the Holocaust is something that is stamped on almost every Jewish person. It's just part of who we are and what we've had to deal with. And I'm really glad they have one international, and then the Israelis themselves have their own way of remembering it.
You know, another good way to remember it is that Israel was founded on May 14th, 1948, and Yom HaShoah, Israel's Holocaust Remembrance Day, that's separate from the one that we're talking about, the international one that's happening here in January. It actually butts up right against the Independence Day. So they remember what happened to those who perished in the Holocaust, and then they remember the veterans and those who have fallen in war, and then they have their Independence Day. So they kind of go through this process of grieving, and then they celebrate their independence.
Yeah,
That's right.
It's a great way. We lose that overseas, so to speak. In Israel, it's so clear in the way they do it. And if you grow up there, if you're Sabra, or you grow up there, or even if you make Aliyah, you come to learn real quick the agony of defeat, as it were, to the just wonderfulness of victory. Because it was terribly sad. We lost so many millions of people, not just in the Holocaust, but then trying to make Israel an independent nation. And then they won the war. They are an independent nation. There's great celebration.
Well, Steve, one of the ways that you can support Israel and the Jewish people, especially remembering the Holocaust, the International Holocaust Remembrance, is being able to see what's going on in Jewish communities around where you are, maybe, because I guarantee there's something happening. Maybe there's a lecture going on or something at a synagogue that you as a Christian can go attend. And then also we have a great class coming up, Steve, in February, an FOI Equip class called Should We Still Bless Israel?
2 weeks. We have 2 weeks.
That's right. February 12th and 19th. There's so much going on in the world right now. Remember, I had just mentioned that Zohran Mamdani, the mayor of New York, got rid of that executive action that identified the what was it again? The IHCA or what?
IHRD?
I saw IHRD, is that what it was? IHRA. IHRA.
Yeah.
Their definition of anti-Semitism, he got rid of that completely. Then there was also protests that were happening in New York where Hamas supporters were standing outside of a synagogue where people were just going to synagogue. Somehow that got approved, which is mind-blowing. And then you also have issues on the right where you have, even from evangelical voices, extremely anti-Semitic, anti-Israel conversations that are going on that are online, and people are gravitating to these voices.
We get some of them.
Yes, we do. People,
You should tell them a couple that you've read.
well, people will often comment on our shorts or on our videos that we post on YouTube.
Not our short pants.
That's right.
They might comment on your shorts. I don't wear shorts.
I know you don't.
But so you're a short wearer, but they're not commenting
Not
on
in
your
here.
legs.
Not in here.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
When
They're
you
talking about,
say
like,
our shorts, what
like
are you
videos,
talking
the
about?
little videos that we
Okay,
do, the
thank
short
you.
videos.
For the old guy across from you, they comment on your shorts? I don't think so.
You're so funny. No, not on my. I don't wear shorts to the office.
Well,
you know?
what are you talking about? They comment on my shorts.
You know, this is part of the reason why I don't come to your house to go swimming, because I think you would tell me to put my shirt on if I jump in the pool.
You gotta wear a shirt.
See, I'm jumping in a pool, and you're telling me to put a shirt on.
You got when you're walking around the pool and you no longer have a tight body, you've got to put a shirt on. It scratches my eyes out. We had a guy with Friends of Israel who came years ago to my house, and he wanted to swim. Oh, no problem. Well, the guy, he liked food a lot, Chris. He just liked food. I don't mind that he liked food. But when he went to swim, I got to see all the benefits of the food that he was eating, and it was hanging out over his short. He just put a shirt on.
He liked Dr. Peppers, too. He liked Dr.
That's
Peppers.
right, that's right.
Well, listen, that isn't even what we're talking
that's
about
right.
here.
You're talking
okay?
about shorts. Explain.
Well, the small videos, people like to comment, and they call us genocidal maniacs. They say that we're lying, that the Bible does not teach about Israel and the Jewish people having a future.
God's rejected Israel
100%.
because they killed Christ.
Exactly right. So that's why this class, Should We Still Bless Israel, with Bruce, Ty, and Cameron, is so
Puts
important.
to bed all those objections.
That's exactly right. So please join us. You can register at foiequip.org. Should We Still Bless Israel? And then, Steve, we don't have this on the notes here, but we just locked up Dr. Daniel Wallace, who is the leading specialist in a area called textual criticism when it comes to the Bible. And he was a professor of mine at Dallas Theological Seminary, and he's going to show you why the New Testament, specifically the New Testament, is one of the most trustworthy books that we have in the world, because he has spent his whole life actually documenting the manuscripts that we have, and compared to some of the ancient historical books that even some consider to be holy books, the New Testament, we have more documents and manuscripts than you can imagine. And he actually, a phrase I remember from years ago when I took his classes, Chris, we have an embarrassment of riches, he would say. And he'd say, you know what? The original is in here somewhere. It's just we have to do the research to find exactly what was going on. But we have so many manuscripts, and Dr. Wallace is going to walk us through that process.
When is that happening?
That's going to happen in March. We'll have more details for you soon. I believe it's March 12th or something like that. And you can register for that now at FOI Equip as well.
Okay, but so in February 12th and 19th, Should We Still Bless Israel? And then in March?
Yep, we've got on the reliability of the New Testament.
Sounds good. Chris, here's what we're going to do for a little while. We've already been in Genesis the last couple of weeks, and I've titled the next several weeks, The Minutia of Genesis.
Yeah, this is, I feel like, is a hot take date right here. What we're about to talk about.
That's right, a hot take date. The Minutia of Genesis. What I'm going through the book of Genesis and trying to find places, just in my experience, where I haven't heard a lot of people talk about from the pulpit. I haven't heard Christians dialogue about it. Things that we, myself included, you read as you're going through your reading, and you just say, you might pause and say, I wonder what that is. And then you say, I'll look it up later, and you never do.
Yep.
So we're going to try to do that.
You call it the minutia of Genesis, but we're going to be talking about some serious minutia today.
Serious minutia. And one of the things I noticed right away is God created, we already talked about this when we talked about the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Tov, the evil inclination and the inclination for good. The garden, what were the ramifications of the garden? The Jewish view, most Jewish people will say that they don't believe in original sin. They believe that you're born good and you could be, your Yetzer Hara is tempted to do bad. And etc. We went through that
That's
a
right.
couple weeks ago.
Actually, I don't know if that was the episode that got posted.
Yeah. Tell them what you mean by that. We had a little trouble.
Well,
with
we
it.
mentioned it already, the Apple spiel.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah, just, you might have missed that one, but we're trying to get it up so you can watch it.
Anyway, so
Zionism.
and then we talked about Melchizedek.
Yep.
And even in the New Testament, the writer who is writing to Jewish people, Hebrews, said, you're not even ready for this. You're still on elementary things, and I want to talk to you about Melchizedek, but you can't even handle that. so we already talked about that. But when God created Adam and Eve, He created man, and then He created a woman from the man, and it was Adam and Eve. And a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife, and they shall become one flesh. So if you're reading the text, and maybe you've never read the Bible, you come across people who are having multiple. It's not one woman for a guy, it's several women.
And we're not just talking about some Joe Schmoes here that just these random people are having.
No.
We're talking about key biblical characters that seem to be going against the way that God had prescribed in the scriptures early on.
100%. In chapter 4 of Genesis, Lamech, he had 2 wives, Ada and Zillah. And then you have Abraham, who we at Friends of Israel talk about all the time. Genesis chapter 12, God is calling Abraham, and I'll bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you. Well, Abraham has Sarah, and then he gets another wife, Hagar.
Yep.
So he's got 2 wives. Jacob.
Technically, he didn't really. Hagar, though, wasn't like he was on the search,
His wife said, take another. Regardless, this is something that when I read it, it's not our culture, but it is in other people's culture, even to this day. Those who follow Islam are allowed 4 wives.
Yeah.
So it's not strange new teaching. It's been around a long time, but people who say they're Bible believers, the idea of having multiple people, it's not something.
See, this is if you're listening, this is not minutia. This is major to me.
Well, yeah,
this is foundational.
But Jacob, he married Leah, which he didn't want to do. His father-in-law. That's a story in itself. It was so dark he didn't know, and he didn't know. I believe it.
He might have had a little too much at the wedding reception.
It could have been, but regardless, now he's stuck with Leah, and he wants Rachel, and ends up working 14 years for 2 wives, and then the sisters get aggravated with each other and start giving him their servant girls.
Yep.
And there's kids flying all over. You talk about a dysfunctional family. This is the family that God selected. This is the family in His sovereignty. We have 12 boys, 1 girl, and Surus all around.
I was just in a moment, the word that came to mind was Surus.
Surus everywhere. I'm telling you, this is crazy. Then Jacob's brother Esau, he had 3 wives.
Yep.
And so when we talk about...
And he married out.
His father said, he heard his father talk to Jacob and say, I don't want you to have those Gentile girls. He took one step further than me when I went to college. My dad said, don't date Jewish girls.
Non-Jewish girls.
Non-Jewish girls. So when I went to college, I dated. I didn't get married. But Esau said, oh, you think only girls here in our town? I'm going out there and I'm not marrying 1, not 2, I'm marrying 3.
That's right. Hittites.
Ay, Chris, I'm telling you. And then if you go past Genesis, now we're confined to Genesis, but King David had at least 8 wives. And Chris, Solomon, he could potentially have 1 wife every day for 2 years.
100%.
For 2 years. So the question is, it's mind-boggling. And so, wait a minute, we have to say, well, we don't believe that. And we believe the Bible teaches different. And yet, you can find examples of the opposite about what we're talking about. And so we're talking about polygamy. And there are Mormons. It's still not legal in the United States, but they had a TV show a few years ago.
Yeah.
About a
TLC.
Yeah, about a guy who had four wives, and people watched it on TV.
Why not?
So polygamy in the Bible, I found this quote, and I agree with it. Polygamy is descriptive. It's not prescriptive.
Explain that.
Well, I was
Explain
going to
that.
ask you to explain.
No, I think you should explain it. You're better than me.
What it does is, in the Bible, I've just outlined Old Testament characters, big ones, very important ones, who are having multiple wives. The Bible's simply telling us that. That's what the Bible's saying. It wasn't illegal in the culture that they were living. It was before the law.
That's descriptive.
That's right. So the descriptive talk in the Bible is this is what happened. There's nowhere that's saying you shall have multiple wives. In Mormon theology, it's written somewhere. I couldn't tell you where, but it is. And in some Islamic sects, there are that's very accepted and allowed. They say we're allowed to do this by our religion. So it's descriptive, not prescriptive. No, in other words, in fact, if you're looking for prescriptive, in Deuteronomy chapter 17, it's actually, God gives instructions where he says he shall not multiply wives for himself, or else his heart will turn away. That's talking about the king.
Yeah, these are the laws of the king.
That's right. But it's good advice.
Well, actually, if you look at the laws of the kings from Deuteronomy 17, Solomon breaks every one. You're not supposed to build a military. You're not supposed to amass wealth. You're not supposed to have many wives. You're supposed to write the law out so that you're supposed to make sure that you write the law out so you don't consider yourself higher than the Israelites or greater than the Israelites that you're serving. I always find it interesting that I think Jesus fulfills he never got married. He didn't have a military. He didn't have anywhere to lay his head. He didn't even have a castle. He didn't have money. He fulfilled, and he lived every day by the word of God. Well, here it's telling you, don't have many wives. It'll lead you away from God. That's what it says.
And Jesus does talk about marriage in Matthew chapter 19, especially as it relates to divorce. But he does quote Genesis about a man leaving his father and mother and cleaving unto his wife. And so the Bible is very clear concerning what happened during when God created the universe, the earth, mankind, and then what happened as they walked the earth. And there's trouble. So today, we would say, as believers, we marry. In fact, in the New Testament, in order to be an elder or bishop, you're to be the husband of one wife.
Yep.
In fact, I'll tell you an interesting story, whether our 7 listeners agree or not. My wife's grandfather, her father's father, when he got married, his wife died giving birth to, I think, their 3rd child. So the child lived, but her grandmother did not live. And then he married again and had more children. And he was asked at his church to become an elder. And he said, I can't be an elder, because he interpreted the passage in the New Testament. It was his conviction that what Paul meant is you're the husband of one wife. I had a wife, she died.
And that's it.
And he said, now I'm on my 2nd wife. There'll be the people who asked him at the church, no, she's dead. That's broken the covenant that you made. So you're married to one wife. He said, nope. I don't agree. So they respected that. But either way, the idea is one man, one woman.
Again, to go back to Deuteronomy 17 and talking about prescriptive and descriptive, that's a prescriptive moment where God is prescribing. He's saying to the king, he actually says you should not amass many wives or have many wives.
That is prescriptive.
Or it says, or his heart could be led astray, essentially.
It's true.
Yeah, but isn't that also, that what's amazing is I know he's applying that to the king, but that's something that could be applied to any man's heart.
It's a principle.
Yeah, it's a principle across the board.
He knows man's heart.
Yes.
The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. We're all sinners. And so he's saying He doesn't want dysfunctional families. If you want to see, we have a modern day example of that, and it happens across the board. Christians, non-Christians, a person gets married, they get a divorce, they had children with the first person, then they have children with the second, and now it's a family that's
blended.
It's a blended family, and how it's confusing. It's difficult. It's hard. I've heard testimony of godly people who this is part of their family world.
They're dynamic.
And you have to be able to maneuver through it. And it's not easy. And if you would ask them, is this easy? They'd say, no. My preference would be to have one biological family. That's not the way it is. This is what we're doing. This is it. But God has prescribed the ideal.
The ideal, that's right. And you actually have a couple different layouts here of the various polygamy, polyandry, polyamorous.
There are cultures.
What does this mean?
There are cultures who have one woman and multiple husbands. And there's some Asian countries that actually have women with multiple husbands. It's not well known, but that's called polyandry. I think I'm pronouncing that correct.
Yeah.
And polygamy is one man with multiple wives, but then there's polyamorous, and that is where a community of people.
I've heard about this.
A community of people. It's
open.
This is way before, by the way, that dating. What did we call
hot take dates?
Hot take dates. The hot take date is anything goes. Anybody in the community, everybody knows everything about themselves. You're not hiding anything, and it's not even married. It's be wherever you want, with whoever you want, whenever you want, and everybody agrees. So there's no, I don't want any part of that. But it's definitely in certain places,
and it's in the culture today.
It's a kind of summary of that is having an open marriage.
Yep, that's becoming more and more popular in culture today. But it's because they don't want to deal with their hot takes. That's why.
Surus. You talk about Surus on steroids.
That's right.
That is Surus on steroids. Anyway, the idea, I just thought that was interesting. We don't talk about it a lot in our churches, and it's relationships are a tricky thing, Chris. And God wants us to be with one person, and that's hard enough. And that's not joking. It's hard enough to live with somebody, and then all through the years, and you could get frustrated, it could get to you, but the idea is you love that person, and as your love grows, so does the way you manage your life with each other. And one of the things I could testify is when I'm able to make Alice happy, do nice things for her.
Yeah, like ice cream.
That makes me. That's right. We talked about that. I buy her. She likes Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Oh, Chris, double chocolate. I don't even like it, but I have to see it on sale. And she gets mad at that. Oh, there must have been a sale. So why should I pay full price?
There must have been a sale. She's throwing you under the bus just to make you happy. I like it.
Yeah, there was a sale, but I'm getting you what you like. It makes you happy. Why should I pay full price? Well, all I have to do is buy you enough on sale and look at the store and wait till there's another sale.
Hey, Steve, I was going through and we were looking up kind of this process of polygamy throughout Jewish history. We saw that in the Torah era, that's the Moses era, the Judges and Joshua, into the First Temple period, that's King David, King Solomon. Polygamy was practiced, and it was actually very socially normal across many layers of Israelite society. And it was the kings who practiced it. We already mentioned David, Solomon, Rehoboam, Joash, Jehoiakim. Wealthy elites did it in Israelite culture. And some ordinary Israelites did it as well. Why? Because of infertility, the Levirate obligations, economic arrangements, social protection of widows.
You had even if you had multiple wives, you had to be able to support them.
That's right. And, a lot of people, again, we're looking at our 21st century way of living, and we're forcing it back 2,000, 3,000 years. There are many things that took place where some of the laws that were created actually were designed to help women because there wasn't a social welfare system back then. The social welfare system was the clan that you were a part of.
Exactly.
And so the clan helped take care of each other. And so if a wife's husband died, she could marry her brother-in-law. Why?
She was supposed to. I mean, he was supposed to. You got a whole book of Ruth about that.
That's exactly right. The kinsman redeemer. But that wasn't just because, oh, you go over there now. It was designed to keep her name in the family, to carry the name along, and to also provide the social and financial welfare that she needed in her time of trouble. It was a big deal if you lost your husband, but they didn't have life insurance policies. That was your life insurance policy. Then you come along to what's called Second Temple Judaism, and that's the era that we have with Jesus. Jesus is living during the Second Temple, and there was still polygamy, but it was incredibly uncommon. It was socially discouraged and trending, as it says here, strongly towards monogamy. Some groups like the Qumran community declared it outright sinful. So the people who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls were declaring it outright sinful. And then also during that time is where we get a lot of our New Testament writings. So of course, the early the New Testament, the Apostle Paul, like what we were mentioning earlier with Timothy and Titus, giving the idea of how an elder should be a man of one woman, one wife. And then you get into the big one, the big nut to crack is actually when you get to a particular rabbi. His name was Rabbeinu Gershom. And Rabbeinu Gershom lived in the 10th century AD, and he was in Mainz, and he issued what's called the harem ban, prohibiting polygamy among Ashkenazi Jews. Those are European Jews. And from that point on, Ashkenazi communities treated polygamy as completely forbidden. However, Sephardic and Mizrahi Jews did not accept the ban originally. These are Jews from the Middle East, North Africa, and parts of Asia.
This is why.
That's right, because Gershom's authority didn't extend that far. What does that mean? I'll give you a second opinion.
That's exactly right.
So that's a little history background to the idea of polygamy as well.
All right, well, next week, Chris, we're going to handle, Lord willing, the sons of God in Genesis chapter 6. We're going to talk about who are these people, what happens. Genesis chapter 6 is again, I haven't heard, there are messages on it. In fact, in Israel, My Glory, David Levy wrote a whole article about it. We're gonna look at it next week.
You know, you and I just have different interpretations of the word minutia. See, minutia to me is kind of like, it's the little tiny things. That is what we just talked about could probably be a month-long podcast, but that's just minutia to you, my friend.
It's minutia. It's minutia. Well, Chris, we got some news here.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
And this one, first of all, I didn't know that Bernie Sanders was on the board of the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. He's been on the board for 18 years. He's Jewish.
Yeah.
He's Jewish. I have no problem. When I first saw, I didn't know Bernie Sanders was on the board.
Zionism.
And then you find out, how many meetings has he attended, Chris?
Bupkis. Bupkis.
The guy's on the board, and he hasn't. In fact, the article talks about he has to walk a short distance to the museum.
It's not far.
Where people are getting on planes who are on the board in order to come to the board meeting twice a year.
The Capitol building is just a walk to the National Mall.
I'm saying other board members have to fly in. We have some board members at Friends of Israel. They fly in.
Yep.
Oh, no problem. I mean, the board members have that. But Bernie, he's a senator. He's right by the building. And he couldn't go once?
Senator Bernie Sanders has served on the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum's board, which, by the way, the little plug here, if you've never gone to the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, I highly encourage you to do it. If you're going to go to Washington, D.C. to see all of the sites of Washington.
You should see all the sites.
You need to see everything, but make sure you do two things. Stop by and visit the Holocaust Memorial. It's actually, I would say, outside of Yad Vashem, the best. The best.
It's amazing. It is amazing.
And then the other is the Bible Museum, which is right around the corner as well. But it says here that Senator Bernie Sanders has served on the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum's board for 18 years, but hasn't attended a single meeting, inspiring a bipartisan, that's big, a bipartisan push to oust him, the New York Post, has learned. Sanders was appointed in 2007 to the Holocaust Memorial Council, which meets just twice a year to oversee the landmark D.C. museum located about 2 miles from the Capitol. Records supplied to the Post by the museum staff show that Sanders, who mainstreamed democratic socialism with campaigns for Democratic presidential nomination in 2016 and 2020, has missed every meeting of the board since his appointment.
That's crazy to me, Chris. Well, but then there's one even more. This is Michigana. This is Michigas, Chris, what I'm about to tell you. I live in Pennsylvania. Governor Shapiro is my governor. And he revealed that when they were talking to various people, who's going to be the running mate of Kamala Harris, they went to Shapiro. And one of the questions they asked...
He was a contender.
He was a contender. And what did they ask him, Chris?
They said, are you a double agent for Israel?
A double agent.
Did he write this in his book?
It was in a book. I think he did. Yes, it was his book.
It says excerpts from Shapiro's book, Where We Keep the Light, were reported on by the New York Times and Atlantic on Sunday. The book will be released on January 27th.
And he said, Chris, I was a little offended. A little offended. Are you a double agent?
Well, this is, whoever gave the permission for that to be asked, that's the big question. Who asked? Was that something that came down from the Harris, campaign? Like, who said we need to ask him if he's a double agent for Israel? And then I remember listening to the Hugh Hewitt show earlier, and they asked also, apparently he's not a wealthy man at all. And so they started asking
compared to some people who started off with $173,000 salary with school debt and now is worth $30 million.
Who's this?
Ilhan Omar.
Is she really?
That I just read an article about, but that's not what we were talking about.
That's not what we're talking about. But he says Shapiro, the sessions were completely professional and businesslike. Shapiro wrote, but I just had a knot in my stomach through all of it. I wondered whether these questions were being posed to me, the only Jewish guy in the running, or if everyone who had not held a federal office was being grilled about Israel in some way. Probably just him.
I'm sure it's just him. Anyway, I found that interesting. And finally, Chris, in our news for the day, it's true. The United States is possibly going to be an asylum location for British Jewish people.
Yeah, U.S. considering, Jerusalem Post article here, U.S. is considering offering British Jews asylum amid rising anti-Semitism, Trump's UK-born lawyer says. Amid growing anti-Semitism in the United Kingdom, Trump's lawyer, Robert Garson, revealed talks with the U.S. State Department about offering asylum to British Jews seeking refuge.
Chris, it's amazing to me that it's come to this. And that's what's happening in Europe all over again. And we've talked about it here on the podcast, how very wealthy French Jewish people have starting years ago, bought property in Israel in case it got too bad. And many of them have made aliyah. Mm-hmm. And now in Great Britain, we want to make sure that in Great Britain, a free country, a Western country, Jewish people don't feel safe and they could come here.
It says, when I look at what's going on with Jews in Britain and when I look at the changing demographics, I don't believe, and I have discussed this with people in the Trump administration, that there is a future for Jews in the United Kingdom. He said, for me, that is particularly sad. Garson said that he has raised the idea with Rabbi Yehuda Kaplun, the Trump administration's special envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism, last month. Steve, the thing that's sad is that anti-Semitism seems to have across the board risen around the world, and that doesn't exclude America. America, I think, is up 300 some odd percent since October 7th. I read somewhere that it's up 350% in the United Kingdom, and in London, I heard not long after October 7th, it went up 1,200%.
It's terrible in London. I've read articles and saw videos on people who are saying, these are British Londoners who are saying, this isn't the London that I know.
That's right. And there was also recently that attack at a synagogue where Jewish people were actually killed. And so, again, I think a lot of a lot of Jewish people are questioning, is this where we want to raise our family? Is this where we want to be? Quite honestly, that's why I'm saying you come here. I wouldn't go to New York City. I don't know if that's the greatest place to plant yourself. And again, Israel is also, in the midst of all the war, people were still making aliyah to Israel.
Well, there will come a day prophetically, Chris. We believe it at Friends of Israel, if the Lord tarries, that there's only one place where it's going to be comfortable for a Jewish person to be, and it's not going to be America. It's going to be Israel. But for now, by God's grace, it's still America, and we're grateful that there's a place for Jewish people who are persecuted in their home country.
Now, these Jewish, especially in the UK and in France, the government is asking, especially in France, hey, Jewish people, you shouldn't wear your kippah, you shouldn't wear your Star of David necklace, you shouldn't put your mezuzah on your door frame because it identifies you as a Jew and we can't protect you all the time. And maybe that's something that's coming to the UK as well. But you know what? It identifies them. I'm sure it only makes them more proud to want to stand out and to identify themselves as Jewish people, even in the face of danger. And here as Christians in the United States and around the world, we actually want to give you an opportunity to stand up for Israel and the Jewish people with free stickers that support Israel, that say, I love Israel.
We have 4 different kinds, Chris.
That's right. And we want to send you 50 free stickers. Steve, I've been getting texts from people. I've been putting stickers on their laptops, on their coffee mugs.
Maybe they should take a picture and send it to you.
They can do that. So if you've made it through the podcast this far,
First of all, congratulations.
That's right, Mazel Tov. And then send us a picture of your stickers at 424-1948. And don't forget to get those stickers, and you can share them with your church, with friends. You can stick them on your Bible, your water bottle, your cell phone, you name it. Anything to start a conversation about Israel, which always leads to a conversation about the King of Israel, Jesus. Steve, Yiddish word of the day, Yiddish word of the day.
Well, next week we're going to talk about angels. I thought we might do it this week, but we didn't have enough time. So the word is angel, which actually comes from the Hebrew malach.
Malakh. All right, look at you. You got that lach.
You got to do the cha.
That's right.
We're great. We're great. My people are great at.
That's right. That's what makes a hot take date. When you spit on each other and you talk.
That's right. You might as well start off and say, "Look, I spit when I talk."
That's right. Malakh. All right, everybody. Angel. Even though we're going to talk about angels next week, we got a great message for you, and that is to come back next week for the Friends of Israel's Jew and Gentile podcast. Hey, listen. Again, now's your chance to go to foiequip.org because there you can register for Should We Still Bless Israel with Bruce Scott, Ty Perry, and Cameron Joyner, who are going to be looking biblically at whether or not Christians should be supporting Israel, and also kind of looking at what's going on, not only in the Christian world, but all around the world, to be able to push back against the anti-Semitism and to give you great arguments as to why God still loves Israel and his chosen people, the Jewish people. You can register for that by going to foiequip.org. Get your free stickers by texting us at 424-1948. Hey, everybody, we'll see you next week.